What is going on, Donut Family Nation? Welcome, Wimkin, Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, all that. Please do me a favor and like, share, and subscribe if you have not had a chance. We would greatly appreciate it. We are going to have a little bit of a different format go forward for the show, talk to the hosts, and before we get together in March, which we will also have a kind of a brainstorming session of where we want the show to go and what direction we're looking for. We are going to break the show up into 3 quadrants. Well, actually, 3 quadrants an hour. And how that's going to work is pretty simple. 1 second. All right. Facebook's been notified. So what we want to do is, and I'll break it down for you. You're going to see in the lower left-hand corner something that says A block right there. Yeah. And a timer. So pretty much in news and media, they have blocks. Usually blocks are 15 minutes. A block, B block, C block, and D block. But in our case, they're going to be 20 minutes. And then if they go into OT, we'll just extend the time and call it OT time. Pretty simple. If that takes place, the clock will start again, take off the A, and go right into overtime. Pretty much is how it's going to work. It's just a way to keep the show on pace, keep it moving, and it holds us accountable. We're a little bit late tonight, unfortunately, so we're going to skip the music intro, go right into Wimkin. We will do that, and we'll be back in 1 minute, and then we'll get this started. We've got some good topics tonight. Hang with us, and promise we're going to bring some good stuff to you. We'll be right back.
Hey, Hog Twins here. Check out our friend Matthew Spirit at his podcast, at The Dumb Show, and his website, don'tunfriendme.com. Yeah.
Adjusting transmitter output.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leeroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.
Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Matthew Spear from the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Who's this other handsome gentleman to my military right?
This is Leeroy, and I am also former military, and yeah, love you guys. We're both we're both former analysts of the military, intelligence analysts, and we know how to break a problem down. We kind of give you the rundown on the ins and outs of the issues, and we like to examine everything that's happening today and kind of look at it from an analyst point of view.
We like to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and we are all out of gum.
Somebody mentioned They Lived the other day, and I absolutely was taken back. I was like, oh my God, I love that movie. I haven't seen it in 40 years.
Yeah, Duke Nukem, to be exact, I think Judge Dredd took it. But it was, I think it was Duke Nukem is the etymology of that during 16-bit Nintendo days. I could be wrong, but I'm rarely right. So, want to say thanks to everybody for being on. We've got a few things on the show that you need to understand and kind of walk you through. We've been doing this for about 4 years, and dare I say it's going fairly well. Please share this out with your friends and family. We do donations on this show, and the reason why, this will be the second time we ask for it. We ask for it at the beginning of the show, and then we ask for it at the last half-hour segment at 8:30. And it's just a nice reminder. We always hit it. It's now 11 months in a row hitting it. We hit it every night, and our people here are just awesome. So if you haven't had a chance to donate, it doesn't mean don't donate, because then that's the time when it doesn't happen, is when you're like, oh, yeah, we always hit it. Sometimes... you don't want to count your chickens before they hatch. So if you have not had a chance, you want to support the show, go to thedumbshow.com/donate. A couple of other things. We go to thedumbshow.com. You can use code DUMB10, get coffee, shirts, some of the stuff you're seeing here, besides the grunt style stuff, which we don't blame Leeroy for, is Constitution United States, exclusive to the Don't Unfriend Me show. 9.6 is the width and dimensions of this and the height. 144 pages, beautiful inlay. It's got a copy of the Constitution, and it's the full Constitution with all the amendments, which is fantastic, and then bios in the back. This is exclusive to the Dumb Show. It's not released to the general public yet. This will be in the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian for sale, and outside Lincoln Memorial and Washington Memorial. You've seen the books. Leeroy has these over here, which are a part of our Documents of Freedom. These are by Applewood Books, and they do all the books. Well, this is the large version, and if you like to follow along, because we break into the Constitution all the time, you can get your own book and follow along with us, and we can have story time.
Leeroy, for the older
go ahead.
For the older readers, you would want to go to that size because it's going to be a much bigger printed version, easier to handle, much bigger. This is a pocket size version. You can take it with you anywhere, and if you ever wanted to get into a political debate on a bus, you could whip one of these out and have at it.
Wait 1 second while I whip this out. A block is officially started. 20 minutes. I have a feeling this is going to go long. We only have 4 blocks tonight, so I'm actually going to change the clock right now. We're going to give ourselves 30 minutes on this. I know it's going to go longer. If it does, we'll go into OT. Where were you last night when the UH-60 took out the passenger liner in D.C.?
So I actually didn't get the exact time of that, but dare I venture to say that it was right during the show or immediately thereafter.
Yeah, it was right around that time. I think it was like 9:30 or 9:03, one of the two. When I was running this morning, I saw it on the treadmill, which is amazing because we got a TV put in, so I can watch the news and run at the same time, which is fantastic. So that's a good thing. Kind of keeps me distracted from those days that I'm not motivated. But anyway, I did see it come across message traffic in chat. And somebody said there was plane crash, and I didn't dive into it too large because the fog of war and sketchy details. So we've got some things that you may not have seen. We'll tell you about the UH-60. Leeroy and I have both been on one. Have you been on a UH-60 Blackhawk, or have you been on the Seahawk, the SH-60?
It was a Blackhawk.
Or both. I know, but you've been on both.
I've never been on a Seahawk. That would be kind of fun,
really?
But yeah.
Yeah, I got to go on a Seahawk because the Seahawk was on the back of our LCC-19. The Blue Ridge, it was on the back, so we got to go off that a couple times. But anyway, UH-60 Blackhawk, it's a Sikorsky Helo, and there are several different iterations of this, and they all have different mission priorities. And this one is designed for essentially carry, and that would be troop movement, VIPs, doing exfils. The UH-60 is a fairly maneuverable chopper. It's very, compared to other choppers, easy to get in and out of situations, and does a lot of the. Yes, Bobby, thank you so much. She says, because I can, and we love that you do. Thank you. 51.99.
Because you're awesome.
Yes. So UH-60 would be considered one of the most maneuverable helicopters. It's not like a Cobra, which is a little bit sleeker, a little bit more aerodynamic, quicker. But a Blackhawk is a good balance between a Huey and a Cobra, and it gives you the carrying capacity and the overall lift ratio of a Huey, but also gives you the maneuverability of something like, certainly not as good as an Apache, but like a Cobra.
Right.
But maybe not as quick on its turn radius. But the point is, these things get shot down. I mean, people are like, oh, well, it should have dodged that aircraft. No. Listen, you can take this thing down with an RPG.
Nobody ever heard of Black Hawk Down, right?
Right. I mean, and we can go into several different Huey, drops in recent memory, but these things are shot down all the time. And when you're on Leeroy and I both had a chance to work for the same group in different capacities. But when you're working in a role of working intelligence for a team or Delta or airborne, whatever it would be, at times you're going to go ahead and not be able to provide air support or surveillance and intelligence because ISR. Because you're in a hot zone. You could have SAMs that are igniting off. You can have people with man-portable missiles, Stinger-like quality missiles. There's several different types, not American-based, but Russian, Chinese. So you would essentially, whoever you're supporting would go in blind because there's no ISR. So Blackhawks are stood down all the time for medical evac or spinning up QRT teams or QRF teams because there are threats in the area. And just understand this is that, yes, they're maneuverable, but they are not difficult to hit at all if they are in a holding pattern or if they're doing an offload or they're repelling people in or even just moving across the horizon at a 200-foot altitude. They are hittable with certain weapon systems. So I want people to understand it's not like it's a stealth chopper. It's not like it's got radar absorbent material. It's not like it's got chaff and anti missile flares and things like that. Go ahead, Leeroy. What else am I missing about this aircraft?
It's a very utilitarian helicopter. It is meant to be one of these types of platforms that in different variants, they might have specialized missions, but stripped down, it is just like a taxi. Right. I had taken one out, and this was over Somalia. I was in one, and Blackhawks are the ones where when you slide the doors open, not unlike the old Hueys, there's just a giant open cavity in the middle. And it's got several anchor points where you would strap down any equipment that you might be taking. And to Matt's point, there's little to no defensive capabilities on these. Some of them have they might have a machine gun with a gunner, mounted exterior, but that's not always there. And so 9 times out of 10, what they'll do in order to ensure the crew's safety is they won't fly over anything that is dangerous. Or if they are forced to, they will take whatever the precautions are in terms of either flight patterns or altitude or using the terrain in order to avoid said threats. So,
right. Yeah. So the next thing is that we have to talk about is the airliner that was coming in. Now, this is a high traffic area. I've flown into this several times, more often than not with the military. And I will tell you, this is a very congested area because of the flight restrictions that are surrounding the White House. It's very difficult. And the Potomac is used as kind of a safe haven for a channel, if you will. And these helos, a lot of people are like, why are those helos here? Because that's where they're actually routed for. I'm going to show you the air traffic patterns. I'm not an expert in air traffic control, but like everything, I like to study and learn and educate myself. So I'm going to bring you that perspective. And so will Leeroy. But it's important to understand is that this helo had every reason to be where it was. It's just not necessarily at that altitude and at that time. And I'm going to show you some things here. Is that first of all, this helo made a couple of errors, and this is gonna be pilot error, and this is gonna be ATC error. And Leeroy, you're familiar with ATC, air traffic control, right? Yeah,
I'm actually called in that one.
Okay, so you can help add some stuff to this, but overall, this is what I'm seeing. I've looked at the flight data. I've looked at the altitude and the overall airspeed. I've looked at the traffic patterns. I looked at the bank that the actual airline was making, the type of airliner it was, and I think there was a miscommunication with ATC and the Black Hawk. A lot of people are saying that this thing, the Black Hawk, was flying dark, which means no lights, and that's not true. It was, but it may not have been squawking, and that's fine. And there's many reasons to do that in a mission. Usually ATC, air traffic control, would be notified of that, especially if they were running any operations. Now, these Blackhawks run over Washington, D.C., Virginia, Delmarva area perpetually. I mean, infinitely. We just literally had 6 of them fly over like 2 minutes ago. And you may ask me, how do I know that there are 6? Well, because I know the time slots pretty well, but you can also hear the pitch of the engine and the overall tonality and understand how it doesn't matter. The whole point is there's ways to tell. But the point is, just literally a couple minutes ago, we had Blackhawks fly over, and they fly over all the time. So I don't have the black box. I don't have the investigation. Military is going to run an investigation on this. FAA will come in because it's a civilian craft, and this is going to get a little muddled because military and civilian aircraft, civilian, have to go ahead and both do an investigation on this because both were there. So it's going to get a little muddy. But you're probably going to find that this was most assuredly pilot error. I've got some information you may not know. The pilot who was on the stick, and simply what that means is the person who was under flight control at that time with supervision was a female pilot. I don't know if this has been released to the general public or not, but you're going to find this out shortly. So I might as well tell you. Was a female pilot, 500 hours, which is respectable. It's not bad at all. It's a good time behind the stick. But in a helo, there's a saying my father used to say, who was a Cessna pilot and a Piper Cub and a few other flew gliders and stuff, is that if you fly 500 hours in a plane, you've pretty much seen everything you could possibly see. And if you've flown 500 hours in a helo, you need another 1,500 hours, and you still haven't even scratched the surface of what can go wrong. I think if we had Ryan Weaver on here, you guys will remember our conversation. He explained how dangerous helos are, and they don't have glide path. You'll see that they can do certain things and turbine assist power and all that other things and rotary down and all that. They have some at altitude, but from 400 feet, they don't have much choice. They don't have much opportunity to do anything except maybe go up or down or bank. And in this case, you literally had 3 options to go left, to go up or down, taken away from you immediately with that airliner. You could only bank right and hopefully get the undercarriage of that thing. And let's not even talk about the jet wash that would take place on that Blackhawk if it got behind that son of a bitch. I mean, that helo was coming down no matter what. It was coming down. Even if it would have missed, jet wash would have just totally taken the air out of that, out from underneath that thing, and it would have hit the ground. So it was coming down no matter what. So we'll kind of look at these things and give you some perspective. Leeroy, what else am I missing? Yeah, Thomas said hold on. Thomas said their glide path is down. That is correct. Straight down. And remember, turbine assisted power helos have can use a little bit of that at altitude, but not at 400 feet. Go ahead.
Right. And helicopters have things like auto rotation technique, which is basically their flavor of a glide. The problem is that there's not a lot of wiggle room for that. And you have to have gone through several, not only simulations of that, but almost practical exercises as well before anybody is really any good at it. And although 500 hours is a respectable amount of time, to Matt's point, you really need to bulk up on that, and you would have to practice that skill in order to really get it down. Something else, and I heard some of this on the way home, so I'm sure Matt is probably already tracking some of this. So just let me know if I'm saying too much or not enough. But apparently, in that general area, that helicopter was not supposed to go above like 200 feet.
200 feet. Correct.
And
correct.
And they
it was at 400, 420.
Yeah, well, I heard like anywhere between 350 and 4, but yeah, in other words, almost twice as high as it was supposed to be. And you're looking at, to Matt's point, a likely combination of ATC air traffic control, and the helicopter pilot.
I've got the altitude of the bird and the civilian aircraft at the same time. Kevster donated. Thank you, buddy. He says, you guys make a great team, but Olivia's prettier. Depends. You haven't
She's
seen
prettier than I am, that's for sure.
Well, that's for sure. So once again, reports are a little muddled. Leroy's right. Ceiling of 350 to 420. The reason why is the last bit of data that we can glean is that you see an upwards approach of that helo that was not tabulated or captured in the last like 5 or 6 seconds of that flight. That's why I'm thinking it's 420 roughly. Because if you look at the civilian aircraft, that's where the civilian aircraft, because at the very end, I'm going to show you this. He obviously throttles up and flaps down in order to get above the chopper. So civilian aircraft saw him and he was on approach and he tried to power up and he tried to lift, which is fine because he has that capabilities. When he's coming in at that 400 feet, he's 17, 20 seconds from landing, but he has the ability to go ahead and touch and go. And they practice these things all the time. Touch and go is coming in, low throttle. Once you touch, hit throttle, flaps down, go up. The problem is that the helo increased its altitude, and that's ultimately what did. If the helo would have done protocol, which is to drop altitude in this situation and go to its normal cruising altitude, so to speak, and the pilot got up on stick and followed protocol, they both would be alive.
What I was to understand is that there was a reason for the increased altitude, which was heavy wind gusts in the area, and so the pilot probably felt a little more safe with the increase in altitude rather than playing things a little more, close to the in a little bit of a more dangerous area at a lower altitude.
And to support this is where training comes in, where if this person had more hours on the stick, they would know that the threat indicator for the civilian aircraft is alpha and high winds is delta. Like the priority scale on those threats are you drop. Like you get down below that aircraft and you've got to have the presence of mind to understand that you're going into a landing area, you're going into a landing zone. And at that altitude, you have a 200-foot buffer between those aircraft at that distance from runway to touchdown in that flight path that you can squeeze under. And they do it all the time. They put those guys at 400 feet, they'll bring a heel, they try to stagger, but you got to understand, they get very, very close, but they may be close from a vertical standpoint, but not from a horizontal standpoint, but not from a vertical standpoint. Right. So by that chopper going into the glide path of that approach, that is the problem. This is most assuredly helo error, but it's also air traffic controller for not squawking on that helo and screaming his effing head off. So we're going to listen. This is going to take longer than 13 minutes. We're going to listen to the audio. We're going to see some visual that you probably haven't seen. One that's very, very close from the Capitol building that adds a little bit more perspective. And if you guys have been down in the Capitol building, you know how close the Potomac is and how close Ronald Reagan is. And I'm going to give you some visuals, and we're going to kind of do what we always do, which is break it down and not sit here and make grandiose predictions, right? And sit here and try to tell you that it's DEI or it's a terrorist attack and what everyone else is doing for clicks. We're just going to give you the truth based upon what we know, still inside the fog of war. Thomas says, Matt, the controller who was handling helicopters in the airport's vicinity Wednesday night was also instructing planes that were landing and departing. Yeah, they were doing double duty. I heard that as well.
Yeah,
and this was where President Trump said DEI and air traffic control, specifically at this area, had turned down over 1,000 applicants because they did not meet the DEI qualifications. They were white. These are things that, unfortunately, happen. Peter, I don't mind you saying hello to people. That's no problem. But if you continue, you're going to get kicked. I think I know you, Peter. I think I do. I think I've seen you before. But yeah, we don't do that here. So we're not a dating site. That's 3 doors down. You go to Occupy Democrats. They're all loosey and goosey over there. With respect, Twitter is, and if I've got it wrong, Peter, I apologize. Maybe you know Karen or something. I don't know, but I'm very protective of my listeners. 31 people over on Twitter. Thanks so much. We've got a shit ton over on Rumble, and looks like we're doing okay on YouTube and Facebook. So let's get into it. And Did I miss anything, or are we good to go to kind of tear into this a little bit, buddy?
One last kind of notable detail, things that, again, I have heard, not confirmed, but things that I have heard that I'm sure will be confirmed in the next day or so. On the commercial aircraft, there will almost certainly be an available black box. Everyone knows that. However, for those who might be expecting to hear one with the helicopter, that is likely not going to happen. Military aircraft like helicopters don't have that. And there's another problem, and that is that most aircraft, commercial aircraft, have something called TCAS. It's the Tactical Alert and Collision System, and it's an audible alert that is apparently very loud. And in the cockpit, when something is encroaching on your immediate area, right, this alert goes off. Well, the commercial aircraft likely had this, but it's not known if the Black Hawk did. And I have also heard, so this is also non-confirmed, but it is also possible that during training flights, especially in that area, geographic area, that alarm goes off all the time, and that it's not unheard of to turn it off. So we'll see.
Smoke alarm in a cigarette factory.
Yeah.
A cigarette testing facility, basically. There are times when you have redundant alarms, collision alarms on vessels. So these things will go off when you're in port all the time and you're trying to navigate and tugs are helping you go out. You'll get collision alarms when you're up on the command deck. And navigation, you'll hear when you're getting too close to a buoy or too close to the side, and you'll hear these audible alarms go off. If you hear one in open sea, trust me, your butt puckers. But when you're in harbor, the captain understands, the pilot understands, everybody kind of understands what's going on, and your reaction to it is going to be less. You're out in sea and you get one of those collision alarms. Like I said, you're flipping your shit. So it's scenario based. Now, some people have said, "Hey, I got a question. Why don't they just stop stacking aircraft?" Well, they can't. The reason why is because it's in a very precarious position. If you look, Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., 3 major areas right here. You can see this. The Pentagon, here, you guys can see it. Top left-hand corner, Pentagon is over to the left. D.C. So Army helicopter flight path lost transmission at 8:47 p.m. Eastern at 200 feet. This is incorrect. So I'm letting you know that's incorrect. They didn't lose it at 200 feet, but there was complication with the communication, and whether it was demonstrating lag or there was some situation. That's why people are thinking it's flying dark, because how do you go ahead and get hit at 200 feet when the plane is at 350? Does that make sense?
Right.
So
Exactly.
so you don't have that. So a lot of people think they were flying dark. Something was turned off. We don't know. We're going to find out. Black box will tell us that, but differently than what Leeroy just said, is you're not going to have like a civilian aircraft black box. This is where the internal investigation is. I can't specifically go into the system, but there are systems on a Black Hawk and other military aircraft where you flip a switch and it's reported. You go ahead and you pop your canopy, that's reported. You go ahead and you adjust your flaps, you adjust your trim, whatever it is. These things are all reported and cataloged. So they'll have some data like that. But you can see this orange line American flight path. It was in a left bank turn, and that's because it's going on approach. Now, the reason why it can't go and do a wider swath or a wider turn, because you're looking about 3.5 miles on this beginning of turn from this Maryland right-hand coast into Ronald Reagan. So normally you would do a little bit of a sharper left bank further away. Here, this one's elongated. And the reason why is there's several buildings right there in Maryland, which if you've done any work in the military or intel, you know what's right there. There's a shit ton of buildings that have no fly areas. So you have to literally like turn left, because this DC no fly zone is right on top of Ronald Reagan Airport. And if you encroach upon that, you get a very severe warning. And if you don't comply, you're going to get a couple scrambled fighter aircraft up your ass, or a SAM, which most assuredly Washington, D.C. has surface-to-air missiles available to utilize ever since 9/11. And this is something that retroactively was added. So this is a dangerous area. So here you go ahead and you have this Helo come in. This is the map. So now you have an understanding. Virginia to your left, Maryland lower right, D.C. up north in a very small pocket and window. So when people say, hey, well, why don't they just go ahead and stack the aircraft somewhere else? You can't, because you're not going to move D.C., you're not going to move NRO, you're not going to move ONI, you're not going to move the CIA, you're not going to go ahead and move Ronald Reagan Airport. So you're going to go through the Potomac in that channel, and you're going to have to stack aircraft at certain altitude. But if someone does not follow, this is the result. Leeroy, anything I missed on this?
No, I think you hit it right on the head there. In terms of the predetermined flight lanes that everyone is required to stay in, it's a pretty well-known thing. And here's the thing. You can deviate from those, you know, in a case of an emergency, but this event, I feel like, happened so fast that there wasn't a lot of room for that. I will add this. I'm pretty sure that it's FAA rule that if you are in a bigger plane and there's the potential that a helicopter or something smaller, more maneuverable, is also operating in the area, if there is the chance that you two might cross flight paths, it's the smaller, more maneuverable aircraft that is obligated to get out of the way.
Right.
And because that didn't happen, that makes me wonder, they probably never even saw it coming. This was probably a shock to them. That would be my guess.
I'll tell you, I've got a bit of video that I'm going to show you, which I believe confused once we listen to this may just take up the whole show. So you guys just buckle in, because there's a lot of data here that we're going to go ahead and present to you. Brian McGuire says, Pete Hegseth reported that they all had night vision goggles. This is pretty standard to have. Get her started, John says. $10.80. Thank you, John. Appreciate
you, John.
it, guys. So your reticles, your optics, night vision goggles, these are pretty standard on Blackhawks. And most of these guys are running training operations. I am almost 100% sure that these pilots of this Blackhawk were not wearing optics.
Right.
It was it's way too bright in that environment.
Not only is it too bright, but there's no need for it. That's a specific kind of training.
Right. But there is a need for it if they're training. But that's so. Let's assume they're training. But the point is that those are not going to be conducive to a high lit environment. And anyone who's worn reticle optics or nod systems are going to know that bright lights suck. And as a pilot, you're not going to put yourself in that position. Leeroy, I'm not discrediting what you're saying. What I'm saying is that it's been confirmed as a training op. So, of course, people are going to say, hey, because it's a training op, could they have been wearing optics? No, they wouldn't. So just something to think about. And a lot of these helmets that they have the ability to utilize optics inside of them. And it's not like they're wearing nod optics that you see pull down in special forces. Although a gunner may, a lot of those pilots, their helmets have the ability to provide that type of imagery. The point is there would be absolutely no need, and it would not be conducive to that area. That there is too much light pollution in that area to be using those in any way, shape, or form. Exactly. That's my point.
That was my point. Is that I feel like if they were going to be training on NVGs, it wouldn't be in an area that would have so much light pollution.
Right. You got 75 different names for optics, NVGs, nods, reticles, optical. I mean, literally 75. We're all speaking the same language here. So when he says NVGs, can you want to explain to somebody what NVG stands for?
Night vision goggles. I'm sorry. It's just one of those things that military guys do. That there's 1,000 different acronyms. We seem to know them all. They can mean
right.
You can use 3 different acronyms to describe the same damn thing.
Right, and that's the point. And even in that conversation, I think I said goggles, I said vision, and I said night, but not in an NVG. So you can. The point is that there are a lot of acronyms and a lot of names for the same exact thing in the military, and it's just a matter of trying to cover your basis on all of them. So here is an audio. Nods. Not. Do you say nods?
Yeah, nods.
So, well, you didn't say nads because that's a different, and that usually happens in the birthing
Those are
unit.
carrier.
It's called a teabag. So, remind me to tell you during intel training how one of my buddies passed out and he got teabagged with a Polaroid. Just the level of latent homosexuality in all military it's so bad.
It's huge.
It's huge. All right, so here's the audio.
The Navy loves me.
Let's listen to it. Give this a listen. Here's one of the ATC squawks.
Party insurance inside on Pass 25, CRJ inside. Pass 25, pass 1 is CRJ.
So, what are you listening to? That's the question. So it says Pat 25. Do you have the CRG in sight? Pat 25, pass behind the CRG. So let me explain what that means. You're getting the ATC is squawking to the Helo and asking them, do you see the civilian aircraft? And here's that there's no response as you fly behind the CRG aircraft. Now, that is assuming that the approach of the Helo was on target not to intercept or hit the CRG at that point. Right. CRJ, excuse me. I'm just dyslexia is kicking my ass. So ATC should have done an immediate wave off. Now, you have the traffic lingo. I don't. What is the holy fuck you're about to intercept? You need to, bank right, 90 degree. What is it? What would they say in that situation to let him know?
Well, I haven't done this in a long time.
That's okay. Give me a rough idea.
It sounds like it would be something like Pat 25, come left bearing, 270 ASAP at flight level 200 or 20 actually, because they always assume the 0.
But that's a standard heading change. You're about ready. Right. You are 5 seconds from impact. Is it?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's got to be something like holy shit. It's got to be, call sign of aircraft. You are in a collision course with CRJ. Immediately emergency.
Right.
Something. Okay. All right. So,
well, part of the problem here, I think, is that the ATC traffic wasn't very clear. Now, if you played that back, what did he say again? He said, "Hey, do you see this aircraft? Do you see this CRJ?" And I think he's assuming that the Black Hawk is referring to the aircraft that he is, but he didn't say that. So one of the problems, Pat 25.
Let me tell you. Asked the question. Let me answer it.
Yeah.
Pat 25. Do you? I just want to be very accurate. Pat 25. Do you have the CRJ in sight? Pause.
Right. Okay. Now, it's an airport. There could be any number of aircraft that are in the immediate area that this pilot could look out either side. And so, yeah, I do. Right. The problem with that is that he wasn't specific. What he should have said is, Pat 25, do you see the CRJ? Your bearing.
Bearing.
Your bearing looks like B, 270. Right. And that would give the pilot some sort of indicator which way to turn their head. Oh, do you see this big honking aircraft? Oh, no, I didn't.
Right. To your left. And here's the issue. is assumption is the mother of all fuck ups, especially in an air traffic control situation. So the moment that he did not squawk back, and you have one person, you have to decide, are you engaging with that helo and following SOP, which is that helo to wave off, or are you engaging with CRJ? This is the problem with having one person in charge of both. Is you could have an air traffic controller engaging with CRJ and saying, you have a small aircraft coming up on your right at bearing, immediate emergency maneuver, please go to 5562 altitude, immediately and hold pattern. Or please move to this bearing and move into a takeoff procedure and elevate to, 9,000 feet, whatever it is. But that didn't take place. And that is why it is an ATC and helo. But there's more to it than this. There's so much more to this.
Yeah. This is a combination of errors. And
as always.
Everyone has always heard the term a perfect storm. And that's when two major events can come together to make a tragedy even worse. And that's, I feel like that's what this is. This was a case where had one of these F-ups been avoided, then the entire thing probably would have been caught in time. I didn't.
Here's a video. Oh God, no, it's fine. I gotta get my shake. Here is a video, and this is demonstrating what we saw in a reverse position. Now, this would be from a bearing of northbound. So this is where camera is shooting. Ronald Reagan Airport is to the right. Go ahead, Leeroy.
No, I was trying to get my bearings on there. Yeah. So to your point, runway 5342 would be to the right. Yeah,
that's correct. Right as we're looking at it, right? So you can see that there is one aircraft over here to the right at the 3 o'clock position, all the way due east. Not east from the photos perspective, okay? To the right east, you're seeing that airplane is taking off.
Mm-hmm.
And as that airplane takes off, right behind him is going to be one landing. That's the way this works. And they stagger. And they stack aircraft based upon winds, based upon a lot of things, based upon overall which gates are open, how busy it is. There's multiple opportunities like O'Hare, but here you don't have that. It's my understanding at this airport, you pretty much come in one way, you leave one way. And that's because of the massive amount of flight restrictions. But this airliner is now making its belly turn and making that 17 to 20 degree turn that it's going in to approach the runway where you saw from that photograph, okay? So you can watch this in real time. Take a watch. So you look at this aircraft. This one is taking off at an angle like this. So they have started to take off and immediately banked. This aircraft is going to turn into that runway and the back edge of that runway. Here, you see the PAT 25, right? 25, PAT 25. Yeah, which is the Sikorsky UH-60 military helicopter. Obviously, it's reporting its light signature. It's not dark. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to see it, y'all. So when everyone's like, it's flying dark, it may not be squawking. That still remains to be seen. But as far as flying dark, it's not flying dark. Okay? You can see that damn thing from 2.5 miles away, and that's basically how far it is. Well, less than that. It's about a mile away from that position. Now, what you can't see are multiple things. Now, I will show you in a higher resolution video, but I want you to understand that the trajectory of the helo is going vertical. And how you know that is, I want you to look at where we start the video and watch how it is increasing its altitude. So wherever it was, it is increasing altitude as the liner is dropping. That's how we know this thing wasn't at 200 feet as it last reported. Okay. This is at the 350 mark that collision takes place. But it looks like he went up and then tried to go back down. And here's the problem. Whatever this pilot did, it looks like they were going to continue to elevate. And it leads me to believe, because they try to drop, they try to get underneath it, because watch, it drops altitude and it's just subtle.
Would you want to bet that that pilot was on the starboard side of the aircraft, piloting it from there? Because had she been on the port side, she would have seen that plane coming.
That's why we know it's a training position. So that is the one piece of information that we don't have, but Leeroy, absolutely spot on, is I want to know what the IP, which seat the IP was in. And that's the thing we need to know. Were they on starboard or port side?
Yep.
And that will explain a lot. Because you can imagine having a directive to stay out of crosswinds, but more importantly, and the winds get vicious here, by the way, vicious. We call this wind hill. But that whole wind channel goes all the way down through these mountains and goes right down into the valley. Anyway, the point is that depending upon starboard or port side, will give that person, the IP, a clear line of sight that if the pilot may have had, the pilot wouldn't wait for IP instruction and would immediately take the nose down or try to get vertical. In this case, dropping is not conducive because the airliner can't respond that quick. $15 from Kim. Sweet shirt, Matt. Thank you, Kimmy. So I want you to understand is that this isn't an F-14. This isn't an F-16. This isn't an F-22. It's not going to hit its brakes and fly right by. It's a flying gas can with wings. And this thing is big, and it's bulky, and it does not turn on a dime. So like Leeroy said, it's the Blackhawks' decision and requirement to get the fuck out of the way. But the problem is it looks like their first decision was to go vertical and then tried to go underneath. And honestly, this is what I imagine. Leeroy, you're IP. Okay? And I'm pilot. Okay? Air traffic control squawks. And no answer. The no answer gives you an idea that there was confusion already taking place on that Blackhawk because there was no response. So the IP was probably saying, "You fucking, will you pull up? Holy fuck! Look to your left window." And pilot said, "What the fuck? What? Where? What? I got ATC. I'm looking. What? Oh my god! Shit!"
Right.
And immediately goes down below deck because that's training. But the plane is also dropping altitude, and that's when you get this. That's my gut. And I'll show you some data which will back up that gut. But there was mass confusion. And that's what happens when you're in a training situation. It doesn't matter if you're throwing hand grenades or you're doing rifle instruction. When there is a threat, the IP, the master at arms, their responsibility is to take over in that situation. And I don't know what that cockpit was like, but I imagine it being very intense for about a 3.5 to 5 second period of time. Leeroy, your thoughts?
I agree with you on everything you just said. And I would also note that in the final moments, it would appear that the helicopter was banking starboard. Now, when you do that, you're in a helicopter. If you turn left, you go this way. If you turn right, you go this way. That means as the helicopter was turning starboard, right? And if the pilot was in fact on the starboard side, there would have been no way that she could have seen that airplane, because you are effectively blocked at that point. Because if you imagine that the aircraft is over, I'm trying to get in the frame here, is over here, and I am flying. I turn starboard, and I'm on this side of the aircraft piloting. Now I've got the entire body of the aircraft now blocking my view. I can't see a damn thing. So by the time she is coming down, and according to the flight log, I mean, according to a lot of the diagrams that have been out, and these need to be confirmed yet, but it does look like in the final moments that helicopter might have been not only coming up, but also in a bank.
And here's the thing. I agree, but I want you, when we show you the higher resolution, you will see that I truly believe that the helo drops and is climbing and then drops. And whether that's a bank and a reaction, honestly, the shortest distance between 2 points is one line, but you should not turn away from that airliner in this situation. The turn should have been made. You know it's coming in at a certain speed. It's probably 140 miles an hour, maybe a little bit more than that. So moving into it, he's moving faster than you. You should be moving away from it. Instinct. It's kind of like when you have rear wheel drive in the snow. You turn into the slide. You don't try to pull out of it. In this situation, this airliner is closing more ground, and if you're on a line to hit him, going into him is not a good idea. Pulling into him and away is better than pulling away and continue on course, because he's going to close that distance. So if you're in an oh shit moment, it's better to allow him to go at his speed than get in his way with a turn. And that is why Leeroy is believing that she didn't see him. And that would be the only excuse to turn into the flight path, is that did not see. Now, here's something else you didn't get to see. Watch this, Leeroy.
Yeah.
So when you're watching this impact, I want you to see it. So immediately you're seeing an explosion. That is helo lighting up. And the reason why you know it's because the fuel is in the wings and it's not in the nose of the airplane. I don't believe that the airliner fuel source caught fire. The initial explosion, I believe, is the chopper, because right to the left of that rotary blade,
I would agree with that.
You've got fuel pods. You've got fuel pods on that helo, on the left and right side. So those fuel pods, one of them cooked off. That's the explosion you see. The airliner maintained its integrity, but I do believe it lost its wings almost immediately. And I'm going to show you why. Watch this, Leeroy. If you watch the initial explosion, helicopter's just obliterated. And you're going to see helicopter is, watch. That's the plane. Helicopter is here falling. But watch the plane. It's in a spin.
Yeah.
The plane is in a 360-degree roll.
It still has some lift on it. Yeah.
But you can see it spinning.
Yeah.
See, watch this rotation right here.
What a nightmare.
Do you see the rotation?
Yeah.
So that thing is pulling some serious G's. And they probably died from impact and exposure to water and drowning, because if that fuselage integrity is gone and they are in seatbelts, they've got seconds. And that water is fucking cold right now. And when I say cold, I'm talking like needles in every inch of your body and sucks the wind out of you cold. Anyone who's done any cold water training understands what I'm talking about. So we're still not done, because there's a whole bunch more. So bear with me. I'm going to take a quick break while I load the next segment, and we'll be right back.
The Dumb Store is veteran-owned with a 5-star diamond rating for service and satisfaction. We offer quality products like coffee, shirts, hoodies, and hats, all made by veterans. Shop with confidence, backed by hundreds of 5-star reviews. Use code DUMB10 to save 10%. Visit thedumbshow.com today. Thank you for your support.
So those are the fuel pods that I was talking about. So you can see that those are immediately, blades are going to go, and then fuel pod's going to go. But you can also see that the Black Hawk has quite a bit of capability for visuals, and pretty much has 180 degrees. But I will tell you that these reinforcements, these metal that are holding
Struts?
the parts, the metal parts that are holding the windshield. I don't know if it's called strut. Yeah, so those do create visual barriers. These helos do have blind spots. I'm just letting you know.
A lot of them.
Yeah, they've got blind spots, and so it's not like you're like, oh, it's beautiful. It's one, and because of integrity and because of what this thing has to do, these windows are not necessarily the easiest thing to see out of during certain times of night. They're very thick, bullet resistant, very dense. Refraction is a pain in the ass in them. There's a lot of things. So optics can be challenging at times. Here is flight 5342. I'm going to show you something you haven't heard, is that, and I told you that the pilot decided to go ahead and hit throttle, put flaps down, which would create lift, full throttle forward. Probably did not have a chance to bring landing gear up because landing gear most assuredly was in the down position.
Yeah.
And tried to increase speed. This also could lead to, Leeroy's thought is that there was no decrease in altitude from the helo, that the helo decided to go up versus down. Aircraft went up and impacted, like almost like a game of like, oh fuck, what are you gonna do?
Right.
You me.
When you approach someone in the hallway and you're looking to
Right.
avoid each other, and you both go the one direction, then you both go the other direction, you're dancing. And I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm saying it's a possibility.
It's a very good point, because watch this. So this is Flight Radar 24. I've got a subscription to all these things because we're nerds. The IP had 1,000 hours, but the IP wasn't on a stick. It was a female who had 500. And I say female not to be a jerk. I'm just letting you know. And we can go into the amount of aircraft crashes that we have had from female pilots. It is very alarming. That's a whole nother conversation. But this is JIA 5342. It's an American Eagle. Thank you, Joanne. Thanks for the show. Thanks for the donation.
Thank you, Joanne.
Yes, ma'am. We appreciate you very, very much. So barometric altitude, 443 feet. So that's where I was talking about, that 350 to 450 range. It was coming in at 121 knots as well. And I want you to watch the ground speed and the altimeter, which is over here in this right quadrant, right here. See this? 443 and 121 knots, okay? So here's position. Like we're talking about this left bank turn, okay? And going into Ronald Reagan Airport. Watch this. A lot of people haven't seen this. I don't know if anybody's.
I have not seen this.
Yeah, so Merry Christmas. So you can see she's descending. So she's in her turn and descending at the same time, which is standard SOP, because of the short window of approach here, because this is their pocket, right? This is their optimal heading to land. So it's got a very short window to get on this angle. It's got a very, very quick response. So he's dropping. She's dropping 400 feet.
Look at the climb there. Oh, wait. Oh.
And then we're done. So if you watch, there is a climb that takes place going up. That's why this is why I said it originally, that it increased altitude. And you're like, wait a second. No, it didn't. You didn't say no, but you're like, I think it was between this range, is that I believe that the helo went up and Airline went up, and in a game of unintentional chicken, you have cross communication. Here it is. Watch it again. 426, 420, 420, 420, 409. Wait a second. And that's
there it
where
is. There's the climb.
Yep, there's the climb. So drop flaps, hit throttle completely full, and tried to climb.
That must have been. So in order to get that kind of reaction, and I understand that particular jet is a little bit smaller by comparison to some of the other airliners, but to get that kind of reaction means that he probably saw that helicopter. I'm going to say no more than 15, 20 seconds in advance max.
Oh, I agree with you. And listen, here's the thing, because I want you to look, his ground speed does not change. Her ground speed is nominal. So that's the thing. If you're doing 131 knots, 120 knots, right? And your flaps are down, so which means they're coming in a downward angle. Okay? You're going to lift.
Mm-hmm.
And if your flaps are up, you're going to drop. And if you have too much of lift with not enough airspeed, you will stall.
Yep.
But at 120, 130 knots, you are going to get a nominal amount of lift. He goes up within seconds, goes 200-300 feet. I'm telling you, this helo popped tall and climbed and tried to get over the top, thinking that this guy didn't see him and was going to continue to go down. But that's not what the airline. This is also now where I'm saying these are multiple faults here. You had Kilo go up versus going down. If would have went down, well, then they would have been fine. But instead of following the rule of large airliner maintains course and smaller craft waves the fuck off, Helo went up thinking, I'm going to give him right away. Pilot reacted and went up 2 at the same time, and that was it.
Yeah.
Watch it right here. Watch the airspeed. Airspeed gets to 133, 131, and then boom, it's done. Collision happens, and it's in the drink.
God,
that's
sad.
it. So a lot of people haven't seen this, and this is our typical for our show, because we research and we get these informational pieces because people want to do this. They don't want to speculate. Well, this isn't speculation. This is flight data. And the flight data is telling us that they both tilted when the helo should have withdrawn and the pilot should have tilted.
Yep.
Pilot should have tilted and maintained course and heading, and probably both would have survived. This is Helo's fault. This is civilian aircraft fault, and most assuredly ATC's fault for not giving clear instruction the moment that guy popped over 220, 240 feet ceiling. The moment that helo was going into an approach patterned area, and on that vector was at a altitude of 350, the alarm bells, that guy should have been squawking, screaming. Pat 25, you are in a collision course and glide path of approaching aircraft. Get below deck immediately.
Right.
Get to your SOP altitude. You are 180 over. Emergency descend now. You didn't have that because this guy's watching civilian aircraft, watching military aircraft, and you have redundancies that are not in place.
Yeah. What he should have heard was something like, Pat 25, come to flight level 100, bearing 270 immediately, and it should have been calm.
Yeah. I'm screaming because that's what I'm screaming.
But it should have been something to where it was very clear, very short, and, and he probably could have ended that with, in order to avoid collision.
And understand, Leeroy is more spot on because pilots are very calm. I mean, these guys are they're good at what they do. But I'm just telling you, at this point, I would be screaming, right? You need to fucking, here, this is Route 4 through DC. And if you take a look, and so you can see this up close, Route 4 is this giant blue artery coming up here. And then you have the airport. See these little things that look like a Mason symbol?
That was in the video that you saw where you saw them coming together. You could see the highway.
Right.
That was in the foreground. And then right behind it, there was a little bit of a dead band. That's obviously the Potomac. And then in the background, it's just where the accident happened.
So a lot of people haven't seen this. So that's why we're doing this. So a lot of people are like, what? There's no reason for a military aircraft to be in a civilian air sector. Not true. Not at all. In fact, it's actually routed right here. You can see Route 4. This is flight navigational data and channels that these aircrafts take. And all of this looks like a giant blue marker nightmare, but these all have rhyme and reason for pilots.
Yep.
And Route 4. The max altitude for this segment is 200 feet. Leeroy's absolutely right. It had a hard ceiling of 200 feet. Max altitude is 200 feet. Just something to think about. But the crash looks like it was between 350 or even a little higher. I don't agree that it was at 350. I think it was higher. Because we saw the airliner. Now, if the airliner was in full thrust with lift, even an impact, it could continue on its trajectory to move up and then have its, like Leeroy said, glide and then spin and go down and crash. It more than likely was not a nose impact. Pretty confident that this was a side impact that took off the starboard wing. Yeah.
It probably came in at a steep angle, clipped the wing, caused it to arc down into the water, even at
and that's
a
where you get that
angle.
Roll. Yep.
Yeah.
That's my gut. I don't think it was a head-on collision. And that also leads you to believe that the pilot had even a smaller time to see, but leads us to believe that the pilot could have been in a bank and Helo, you understand? So pilot may not have seen, but obviously the pilot saw because he popped to and gained altitude at the last second. But understand that movement of hitting thrust and dropping is a 1-2 thing. Bam, bam. Pilots train on that during touch and goes of how to touch the runway and take off again. And it's on a shortened runway. It's on a half runway. So they know how to immediately, and it's literally that. It's hit throttle, flaps would immediately go down to create lift. But in an airliner, flaps don't necessarily work that fast. You've seen them.
It's not instant, yeah.
But even with drag coefficient, just a little lift and full throttle, they're not in a full up flap position. They're still gliding. So they're probably up flaps, probably 4 to 7 degrees coming. I don't know. I'm not a pilot, but what I'm saying is it's not going to be literally flaps completely up to slow airspeed down to 0 and use air resistance to break the plane when they touch, because that's what happens. You'll see those flaps and they'll go shoom, and they come up and it creates a drag coefficient. In this situation, they were probably at just a standard measurement, making slight adjustments for altitude and predictive pattern going into computers probably on it and assisting, and immediately sees that helo, like Leeroy said, 5 to 7 second window, flaps down, throttle up, gets a couple 100 feet. But at that time, I think the helo was also pulling up. Just fucking bad. Like, just rolling the dice. I'm going up or going down. And both went up.
The only comfort that I have throughout this entire thing is that by the time the panic, they went from panic to potentially all perished. You're going to say within 10 to 15 seconds. So that's my only comfort, is that there's probably a few people that were on the aircraft who may have
seen it. Yeah.
Been sleeping is what I'm saying. And if so, good for them. That means they never felt any pain. They didn't know. So
if you take a look here, And it's a good comfort. And listen, I don't want to be cold. Like everyone's like, gosh, they haven't even said anything about condolences. Folks, we are analysts, and you have to be, just because we're not impassioned and just because we're not weeping doesn't mean we don't feel this. But we have a job to do, which is to provide you as much information as you can to make your own judgment. And emotion is just going to muddy that. We can do that after, but right now this is just going over data. Now here's the problem. Here is the actual collision at 350 and 375. This is strange. This is strange. I don't know if I trust this data based upon what A24 is telling us. Now, it's very possible that this is the correct, but if you look, it's at a 350 and a 375, a 25-foot difference between the two, and 121 knots. The airspeed does not match A24 flight, and either does the altitude. I am a little skeptical.
Variance.
Yes, yeah, but 250 feet is a pretty big fucking variance.
250, no, 25 feet, right?
No, in this it's 25 feet, but A24 tracking shows that it went up to almost 560.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're talking about the disparity between this graph and the other one, not in the altitude difference on this graph. Got it.
Correct. So when you see that plane go up, but remember, they have about a 3-4 second where that helo is not reporting its airspeed and its altitude. I'm going to show you this video because I'm going to show you a longer video which will help you see what happened.
American 1630.
Watch this. This is a good one. Some of you may have seen this, but this is everything synced up, and I want you to really pay attention here because there's a lot of information here. Okay.
Number 1.
First of all, this has the map that I just showed you, where it has Route 4.
You can see the helicopter traveling south. Just the blue dot right in the middle. Sure.
This is Pat 25, and this is JTA 5342. So there's civilian aircraft. Here is your helo. Okay. Now you've got a couple of other ones here, which I want you to think about because these are going to play a part in this, I believe, because I also believe that Pat 25 got confused at which aircraft they were supposed to go behind. I'm going to show you that in a minute.
Clear for takeoff, American 1630. Pat 25, get the CRJ in flight. Pat 25, pass behind this CRJ. Good service. American 4782 by Bat, now for an visual. American 472, watch star, 1 star, 32017. This is Win. Number 1, clear for takeoff, American 1630. Pat 25, get the CRJ in flight.
So this is the runway. You have 3 runways. 1, 2, 3. It's hitting this runway right here. And she is going to go into it. So I want you to see she's turning left and her belly is exposed at this point. Probably like this. Just a slight turn. You guys have felt the turns, right? When they're going in and going on approach. You felt the one where it's like DIA in Denver where they're like this, and Chicago O'Hare when they're like this. This is a slight bank, slight turn, and this is what you would see. It would look like this. And then would flat.
What that ATC guy probably should have said right at that point where he's talking right there is Pat 25, come left, 270, altitude 10, immediately. And had he done that and the pilot would have been listening, maybe things would have been all right.
Yeah.
Miss RJ. Good service. American 4782 by Bat, now for an visual. American 472.
All right. So all videos that kind of help us connect the dots, but here's one I'm also going to show you, which I don't think you guys have seen, which is from the airport itself. And then I got the hiccups. And then I've got one at the Capitol building. Here you go. So you will see Helo. See it coming in right there?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see she's ident. She's got nose and tail and undercarriage lit. You see 3 lights. So she is absolutely broadcasting, and she's not dark. But you see how the civilian aircraft is coming in?
Yep.
And it's dropping on its flight path, but watch.
Those lights are getting awful big. Yeah.
Yep, but watch. It stops. It flattens out. It stops descending. And the helo increases altitude. And the reason how you know is look at this distance from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at this distance from here to here. And same thing here. Okay? Helo is going up. And then
right there.
Yep.
That's the first frame where it starts to go up. Yep.
Yep.
It's almost like at that point, that's when they knew.
Yep. They knew right here. And that, guys, that's a second and a half. I'll play it in real time. But Helo sees, airliner sees, airliner flattens out, and then and Helo in an emergency response when this is what should have actually happened. They both were wrong. What should have happened is maintain altitude and glide path or approach. Do not course adjust. Do not slow down. Don't do anything. Continue. And Helo should have literally waved off, moved to this direction. And up or down doesn't matter, but up would have been okay, but that's not directive. Directive is you're flying at 420 feet, 350 feet, whatever it would be. You are 150 to 200 feet above your ceiling. You should move and veer off, let him continue path, and drop down. Instead, increased speed went up, plane increased speed went up, and they both hit. Because what, you'll see it right here.
Right.
You're not getting this analysis anywhere else. And the reason why is because people don't focus on the detail. Leeroy and I live this shit. We live on the little details because that is where the story takes place. And you can see this and watch how Helo moves up. See it? It really starts to move up here. See, it almost jumps. See that jump?
Mm-hmm.
Watch it. It's almost like this.
Yep.
Almost belly
Right
exposes,
there.
but the airliner's doing the same thing. Because watch, the light goes like this. He flattened out, and then goes, oh fuck, and they both lift at the same time, and there you go.
God, what a sad thing.
Yeah, it's just pilot error, air traffic control error, and that's it. Yeah, hard port turn for the Helo. Airliner maintains altitude, maintains speed. Our descends continues, but a hard port turn and let that airliner continue on its path. And a hard port turn would have given you you would have had plenty of clearance, even at a second and a half. It's just knowing what to do in a crisis. Watch
and again, had that helicopter been at the correct altitude to begin with, this whole thing would have been avoided.
Completely. And remember what we said before. An alpha threat, which would be, oh my God, we're on a path of collision, versus a delta threat. We have some high winds down at 200 feet. You could have just dropped to 300 feet and this whole fucking thing would have, or 225 feet and this whole thing would have been avoided. But Airline, I believe, made mistakes too. You're going to find that. Once again, watch it in real time, okay? And watch what I was saying. You can see the path of both aircraft. Nobody has said this. I am the only person that has told you that the Helo went up and aircraft went up. I haven't heard that anywhere. And I'm willing to bet this entire show on it.
Oh, this is rough.
It's horrible. It's horrible. And I'm not saying I definitively know. What I'm telling you is based upon A24.
No, these are preliminary assessments. right? This
And
is
they're
this is somebody who's been trained to analyze footage like this, been trained to look at the map, the topography, to look at the flight data log, to listen to the comms and try and figure out how all of this stuff intertwines together to put together a more accurate picture than anybody else is able to tell you.
Yeah. There is one other video of this and an angle. I'm gonna try to find it. I had it earlier today when I was working out, and I forgot to save it. Here is a really good video. This is exactly visuals that I've seen, but from a VTOL and an Osprey.
Oh, okay.
I saw the same exact this entire visual is, instead of being in a Black Hawk, this is from an Osprey. Okay? That I'm going to show you right now. But it'll show you how people are like, this doesn't happen. They don't do, yes, every day they do this. Every second of the day, this is going on. Watch this. This is a civilian airliner showing you what it looks like with some Black Hawks flying at 200 feet in this pocket. Watch. This is an exact thing that you would see.
Yep.
That's how close it is. Happens all day long. That 200-foot airspace is theirs because that airliner can't possibly encroach upon it unless there's a malfunction, because they're vertically climbing on that takeoff. And there's no way that they are going to intersect with those Black Hawks at 200 feet from that runway with that lift and following takeoff procedures, unless those helos divert. And that's what happened. It's plain as day.
Exactly what happened.
It's just plain as day, folks. I've seen the exact same thing at least 3 times from an Osprey, at least 3 times, and from civilian. Flying on a 727, I've seen this. Flying an old Eagle puddle jumper, I've seen this. Happens all the time flying out of DC. It's just the way it is. Now, the only other one I wanted to show you, I'm going to see if I can find it. And it was from the Capitol. But it really gives you a good look. I may not have it for us tonight, and plus we're out of time on our block. But hey, we got it within 2 minutes. We're gonna wrap up with final thoughts, and we've got still a whole bunch of show for you and some other great things. But it's 8:30, so I'm here to tell you we're at 138.59 last night. Leeroy, it was so good. Were you there? You were there. You were there last night, dude. When the freaking Groiper came on.
Oh yeah. Oh, your show sucks. You're never going to make your financial goal. And what did the dummies do? Man, they proved that dude an idiot.
Yeah, they did. So we're still raising tonight. I also want to give you guys some huge news. We're at, if I just take this thing over here, is if you look at that number, we're now at 210,057 on followers on Facebook. So pretty cool. So we're pretty excited.
210,057 followers. Guys, like, share, and subscribe. If you like this level of analysis, if you like this content and what we're able to provide, man, throw it out there. Let everyone know.
Yep.
Yeah, this is great.
Let freedom sing. And listen, we know we get a little long in the tooth. We know sometimes we're not as exciting as Benny Johnson, but we also don't lie to you. We also don't try to keep you engaged from clicks, but this is why our show continues to grow. And it's an effort, because we're competing with thousands upon tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other shows. But I'm proud of what we do here. And you know what? Our little network of 300 to 400 a night, it's okay with me. Got 110, 107 on YouTube and Facebook. Guaranteed Rumbles in the hundreds. We've got Wimkin, which are a bunch of are watching. So we're growing. We're making it happen. Yeah. Chris R says, "You're not kidding. I felt the impact through the ground and the heat from a huge wall of flame. I worked at Hertz at the airport, so garage door of car repairs was open, and I turned around in time." Wow. So,
oh my God.
Quick segment break, and then we're going to get into the next topic. For A block is over. Leeroy, last thoughts while we button up A block.
Just sad. I think Matt and I have pretty well hashed this out. This is a combination of a string of errors, both from both pilots, and from ATC. And it's unfortunate. And I feel terrible for the victims and the victims' families, and I hope that steps can be revealed so that something like this can't ever happen again. But I know that it will.
This is a training thing, man. I'm telling you that they are going to be training this, civilian and military alike. Anyone who flies into that airport, anyone who flies into any co-op base is going to have to train on this, because this is it's one of those scenarios where you should know what to do. Reflexes should take over. But it didn't take place here. We will be right back for the next block.
Join Webcam.com, the social media platform built for free speech and true connection. No censorship, no algorithms controlling your feed, just genuine conversations and a commitment to protecting your rights. Sign up today at Webcam.com and take back your voice. Tell them Matt and the Dumb Show sent you.
I want to just, to the families, if anyone's listening or anyone who is impacted by this, it's tragic. Olivia and I love the Olympics, and she loves figure skating, and there was Russian team members. There were so many young people on this. It's just a tragedy. It's horrible. Life is too damn short. Thank God they did not have pain. I believe that the G-forces that they were taking from that initial hit, most of them blacked out, which is good. It's very, very quick. They were pulling a ton of G's. And that spin probably saved people from excruciating torment, and that's, it's horrible. So we will continue to keep you updated, and I hope you appreciate it, and we'll go from there. By the way, if you have not had a chance, you want to keep the Dumb Show free, the only way to do that is to donate to the show, because Facebook has taken, even though we are doing very well, they have taken all of our money that we made on this show, $15,000 a month. Low months were about 8, high months were 15, and they took it all away from us. We're going to talk about that in the D block when it comes to Mark Zuckerberg. We might have a little overtime tonight, not too much. But if you have not had a chance to donate to the show and you like the show, please go to thedumbshow.com/donate. Help us out. Get us there. We would appreciate it. It means the world to us. 20 minutes on the clock in the B block. We're going to go to the Tulsi Gabbard, Cash Patel, and RFK. Listen, I just want your 45-second thoughts on Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, and Cash Patel. What are your thoughts?
So Tulsi Gabbard, right? Former representative from Hawaii, United States Army Reserve officer. Here's the thing. I understand that, she kind of turned her back on her party. She says that she became she went from Democrat to something else, right? But she's still pro-choice. She still co-sponsored a ban on bump stocks. She was still pro-Obamacare, and she was against the border wall. So I don't know what changed, but somebody who comes to that level of realization that quick, I don't know. You know how I am about this.
I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of Tulsi Gabbard.
I'm dubious. We'll say that.
So, no, Brian, we're not hating on Benny. Benny is a different type of. Benny is entertainment, and we like to be like the news. We want to have you remember Crossfire, that show? That's what we want. We want to have a healthy discussion, but also bring you fact. That's it. I have no issue with Benny Johnson. He's an entertainer. That's what he does. But if you want the truth, it's not always the best place to go to, because he's wrong a lot. I mean, he was wrong on you know what? Enough said. You guys know who we are. I'm not going to bag a fellow conservative. I like Benny. He's got a much bigger audience than I do. He's much richer than I am. I'll take my physique, though, because he needs to do some weights. But otherwise, I like him. I do. He stole my set, but I still like him. So Tulsi Gabbard. What about RFK?
Oddly enough, this is one of those cases where I think he was from the Democrat Party, right? But he sees just as much as of the potential evils baked within not only the government but also companies as anybody else. As any conservative, he can say, look, this is a problem when you give the government too much power, and maybe we should implement some steps to prevent some of that. You can see a lot of that philosophy baked into some of his decisions, not all of them. I don't agree with him on everything, but at least he has that going for him. That level of, man, we need to, yeah.
I treat him like Tulsi the same way. Like
Yeah,
abortion. Listen, Tulsi Gabbard is a progressive. And no, she's not, Matt. Yes, she is. 2 years,
she is.
Literally, 2 years ago, go look at her platform. She has one of the most progressive socialist voting records outside of Kamala Harris. She's 2. So you got to understand, when you compare the House and the Senate, put them together, she has the second biggest progressive voting record. That's huge. Abortion, Second Amendment, cashless bail, all these things. She is 100% a progressive. However, I will take a progressive who questions liberals and leftists, who isn't implementing policy, and still some of the best intel guys that I know have politics that I don't agree with, but man, they are shit hot and they know what they were doing. And that's a different thing. Intel leaves politics at the door. Intel has a code, and that code trumps everything. Now, there's some shitbag Intel guys. I'm not saying there's not.
Sure.
But most Intel guys follow a certain code. Go ahead, and then we gotta play some video.
Well, I was just going to say, when you're talking about somebody who's progressive or somebody who's reasonable or unreasonable, you are literally just within a few words of spouting probably the most famous George Bernard Shaw quote that has ever been uttered. And I'm going to read it for you. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world. The unreasonable man persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. And think about the power of that. That's like a thank you, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby. The truth sets you free. Love you, Bob. She's the best. That woman, like if there was a gold brick to put into the pathway of leading up to the Donut and Friendly Show building that doesn't exist, there are like 4 or 5 bricks that people would have: gold, platinum, silver, bronze. So many people bronze, so many people silver, but there's gold and platinum donors who are just carrying the show, and we love you and thank you and can't thank you enough.
Bobby is amazing. Yes, I love her.
So there's a lot of people, but yeah.
Yeah. So when you're talking about reasonable people and unreasonable people, or progress or lack thereof, I think we need to be very cautious about how we label people, because really, honestly, progressives tend to be labeled as liberal, and I feel like I'm one of the most liberal people out there. You can be, Matt is too. We can be socially liberal, but fiscally responsible. We can do that. We can do that as a country. We can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Exactly. That's a good point. All right, here it is.
Do you believe, as the chairman of this committee believes, as the vast majority...
Greg Gutfeld said it today. I am so sick and frickin' tired of the yes and no answer bullshit. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Just a yes, sir.
I'm not going to... Listen, these are... Tulsi Gabbard does well, but this... Michael Bennett is a complete douche. I mean, this is the guy, the illegals in Colorado. This is the guy that said Aurora, the gangs weren't there. He's a horrible human being. Here's the rest.
Majority of members of our intelligence agencies believe that Edward Snowden was a traitor to the United States of America.
Senator, if confirmed as Director of National Intelligence, I will work with you to make sure that there is not another...
Don't wave your fucking finger at me. You work for me, douche plow. I can't see. Who do they think they are? By the way, Brian says, I also know that people change. Nobody changes. There's no such thing. You can restrain and refrain from certain anecdotal and character flaws, but nobody changes. That's just not the way it works. You can suppress certain things and learn to control them and use your strengths to override your weaknesses in some cases. But adapt and override, or ignore and override, only lasts for so long. People never change. Your neurons are set when you're 25 years old. And they're not, you can make altercations. You can make some things important, but nobody changes. Tulsi Gabbard believes these things. Tulsi Gabbard can't say she believes these things because now she's in the conservative circle. I'm sorry, but it's not that their past doesn't define them. Their actions do. And until she gives me a little history, I don't believe she's changed. I don't believe Dave Rubin's changed. I believe Dave Rubin is the same guy he was on the left, but he has changed his filter and altered his perception to present himself in a different way. I haven't changed on this show. I'm still an asshole. I am still a foul-mouthed, arrogant guy. But I also have expressed and modified and compassion and patience and things to that effect. But that old guy comes out once in a while. We always should give people the chance to demonstrate a new version of themselves, but we should never believe that people really change. I'm sorry. I'm just go ahead.
This whole thing reminds me of there's this political cartoon about the left, center, and the right, and the liberal is on the left and the conservative is on the right, and the guy that's in the middle is like, hey, I'm just here being me, right? But then the left goes way further. I'm just going to send you the damn cartoon.
So, but hold on. So Evelyn says, I totally changed my views on abortion, so I do believe people can evolve. Evolution is adapting to your environment on things you cannot control. That's evolution. Change is somehow chemically altering something that is either an overused or underused skill set that you possess. Because everyone has a skill set at every single thing. Everyone can play guitar. Some play it really well and some play it completely like shit. So everyone has a skill set and everything. Tightrope walker. You can do it. Well, I'm in a wheelchair. Sure, but I can put you up on a wheelchair and put you on the tightrope and you can fall off. It just means you're really bad at it. But everyone has the ability to attempt and try. Evolution is forced change for survival. Real change doesn't take place because you're the problem. It's like people saying I'm an alcoholic and I don't need to get help. I'll just do it myself. No, you won't. You need an outside influence, a guide stone. You need someone to help you modify your perception because the problem is usually with you. This is my point. It's not change. It's not evolving. It's simply using experiential learning to get to a conclusion that is right for you and your soul. And I can tell you that's like saying, okay, when I was a kid, I wanted to sleep with every woman in the world. And I slept with as many women as I possibly could. I still love sex. And it's on my mind every 7 seconds. That is no lie. I'm sitting here and I'm going, oh, God, I wish Olivia was here. So guys are built that way. But instead of me wanting to copulate with anything that moves, man, woman, or vegetable, preferably vegetable because they put up less of a struggle, I have committed myself to my wife and I love her, but that would be something completely foreign to me when I was younger. I didn't change. I just altered my perception and grew up and matured. So yes, a little bit of evolution, but it's more like self-discovery. And your priorities change and the outside stimuli change, but you don't. You stay the same. You just have different outlooks or different experiences which mold you to see things differently. Maybe that's the change we're talking about, is that you see the world in a different way. So that's my point. Leeroy, go ahead, buddy.
Oh, I don't have anything to add to that.
Let's get to the rest of this video. You're right. Let's watch this. Yeah. Here's the rest. Listen to this. We got a couple of these.
For social media, it's not a moment to propagate theories, conspiracy theories, or attacks on journalism in the United States. This is when you need to answer the questions of the people whose votes you're...
No, coming to a different conclusion isn't change. Evelyn, we're not on the same page here. And I don't have time to go into the human psyche. Your neurons are set. You're going to come to the same conclusion on multiple different topics throughout your life, but nothing changed in you. You have expanded your outlook. And that's not change. That is a normal processes. No chemical compound in your body changed. No pathway changed. Your brain didn't change. You gained experience. You gained outward stimuli, which alters the way that you intake information. But there was no physical change to your processes. There was no physical change to your chemical makeup. And if you did, it's because you did something from the outward, like take medicine or go through a bad divorce or possibly have a very good friend who had an experience that you gleaned information. But that is outward stimuli. I completely disagree that people can change. Because if that were true, then you could stop being an alcoholic. If that were true, then you could stop being a narcissistic asshole. Not that you are, Evelyn. We are hardwired to be who we are pretty much right when we get out of adolescence into adulthood, around 25 years old. Our neurons are set. We are who we are. But we do have the ability to grow and adapt and modify the shortcomings that we possess. Whole nother conversation. I got to stop. Evelyn, do me a favor. Yeah. Don't ask me another question on it, because you know what? You're going to distract me because I care about you. Let's stop talking about this and build a show on it, and I will be able to explain it when I prepare better. But let's just focus on this.
You're asking for to be confirmed as the chief intelligence officer of this nation. As my colleague said, this is not about you. It's about the people that serve the intelligence agencies of the United States. Is Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America? That is not a hard question to answer when the stakes are this high.
Senator, as someone who has
your
served
answer,
in
yes
uniform,
or no,
Here we
is
go.
Edward Snowden a traitor to the United States of America?
Pause it real
as
quick.
someone who has worn
on.
our uniform
We don't
in
have time.
combat, I understand how critical our national security
Apparently
is.
you don't. Apparently you don't. Let me ask you. I've worked.
Okay, just hold on. This is where in the show, remember we talked about this the other night? We have to go forward. I know we have a billion things to say, but we're running out of time unless you want to stay an extra half hour.
No.
Is Edward Snowden a traitor? That's what I want you to answer. And then you can say whatever you want about Gabbard, but is Edward Snowden a traitor?
Yes. Now, here's the thing.
Yes or no, Leeroy.
The way he frames it to pin her down to try and use it against her, that is a flagrant abuse of power. I think that there's not enough people that would understand that, yes, Edward Snowden did some pretty terrible things. And here's the thing, both Tulsi Gabbard and what the hell is that guy's name?
Bennett.
Both have clearances. So they can look this information up, right? But they know who, let me correct myself. They know that the information that Edward Snowden stole, where that information ultimately landed, right? So he is basically trying to demonize her. But they both have like the same level of clearance. Like there's not enough people that know where that information ended up, and it was bad. And there was a financial exchange that happened because of it. So, yeah.
Okay. I want to dive into this. Listen to me. You change your opinion for many reasons. Peer pressure. Change your opinion because of nuance, of emotions. Opinions are fluid and they're dynamic. They're superficial. That doesn't mean you changed. So if you want to make change as something as trivial is that you decide to eat something for breakfast differently than you did yesterday, and that's true monumental change. I'm telling you, that's not change. It's change in the theoretical sense and existential sense that it's not the same as it was yesterday. But you have the ability to adapt, to alter, to magnify, or shrink your perspectives based upon emotions, based on outward stimuli. But that's not true change, because changing an opinion, it lacks action, or it lacks depth or true transformation. Now, you can physically change your body. You can physically change your eating habits. You can physically change your emotional response to things. Those things all have quantifiable results, but true change has to be quantifiable.
Measurable.
It's and measurable. It's quantitative. So when you were like, oh, I changed, I don't think you did. I think you maybe got a little smarter. I think maybe you got a little dumber. I think you maybe got a little thinner. You got a little fatter. You got a little bit more conscientious of this or insecure about that. But meaningful change is literally a metamorphosis. And you don't go through that process. I am still the same guy I was at 25 years old. I have more experience. I have more breadth of knowledge. I have a little more patience. And yes, if I'm comparing myself to that other person, then there was change, but that person is still me, and those traits are still there. That's my point. We can do this tomorrow. Is Snowden a traitor? Okay, so this is the conversation. This is an existential dilemma. It depends upon the factor of who is doing the surveying of this. Now, if I'm an intelligence specialist, absolutely, he should face a firing squad.
Yeah.
He should be, he should get a yardarm.
His corpse should face the electrocution. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because we swore an oath, and he swore an oath, and he broke his oath, and he broke one of the most sacred and honored vows that you can make as an intelligence professional. So from Leeroy and I's perspective, he's a traitor, 100%. But so is the United States government. And the programs that they used were a violation of the Constitution and usurped power from the people, and were literally a coup d'etat against the sovereignty of our country and the citizenry of this country, which is also treasonous and seditious. So from a civilian, I love that he did what he did, because I already knew about a lot of those programs, but we got to uncover a whole bunch more. But from a military person, from a honorable person, he's a traitor. But the practical side is the one I want people to focus on. And look where he went. He went to Hong Kong because China was going to, and Russia were going to be the highest bidder. And he had all intentions and all intents and purposes to blow the lid, but also profit from it.
Exactly.
And that makes it, it's not altruistic anymore.
Exactly.
It was greed. And in that case, he's a traitor. And should face the harshest extent of the law, because he didn't do it for the good of the people. That's a very nice thing to say as a reason for doing it. But his actions he could have whistleblowed. He could have released it to American newspapers. He went to Hong Kong. And then he exfilled to a non-extradition country to protect himself, and then enriched himself based upon the things that he stole.
Completely agree.
He didn't whistleblow. Whistleblow follows a direct pattern, and there is a processes to blow the whistle. And there are things in place to blow the whistle. And there are 100 different ways that he could have done this. You know what I would have done? I would have went to every single major publication in the United States. And I would have went to my state's attorney, and I would have done whatever I could to have the largest press conference ever And I'm telling you, that is a very different thing than profiting from leaking secrets and putting people in jeopardy. You guys understand, he's not a good dude. This guy released intelligence, non-official cover type operatives, deep cover operatives. He exposed systems of collection on our enemies. It wasn't just stateside stuff. He released international damaging intelligence collection apparatuses.
He set us back, not even joking. I saw a report once that suggested that what he leaked set us back in our advantage in the world by more than 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad.
I'm just letting you know, guys. If he wouldn't have profited off of this, I wouldn't have cared. But there are ways. Listen, and there were ways back when I was in to go ahead and report something like this. That's it. Brian, we're not doing this. We'll do it on another night. Listen, I'm trying to stay on time, man. The literal this is why I can't resist you guys, because I care about you. So when you do this, it just distracts from the show. So the literal definition of change is you can't make anyone do anything. This is the problem with the definition. It's flawed. I can't make you change. I can't make you feel bad. I can't make you a better person. I can't make you fit. I can't make you healthy. I can't make you have my opinion. I can't make you give me money. I can't make you sleep with me. This is the problem with change. Inherent change requires some stimula to make that happen. It takes experiential learning to do that. It takes an educational process that I can't force upon you unless you're willing. So how about this? You have to be willing to change in order to alter the things that you want to. So the initial process is a willingness to change, but you don't actually change. You don't. Chemically, nothing changes. Your neurons are still there. You may get dopamine from different ways, but it's still dopamine. You may get serotonin overspill, but it's still serotonin. There is no such thing as true change in a human being. You say, so the literal definition of change is to make someone or something different, alter or modify. I feel like you are trying to redefine change to justify your own beliefs. It's not my beliefs. This is chemic. Please explain to me what the composition of change is from somebody who says, I believe in abortion and now I don't believe in abortion. Please tell me the chemical, physical, metaphysical change that takes place. This has nothing to do with my belief, because I don't do belief. Do you believe or do you know? So let me ask you, do you know that alcoholics are always alcoholics for the rest of their lives? Is that something that you know is an incontrovertible fact? Why don't they just change? Well, they've decided not to drink anymore. That's not change. They are still an alcoholic. They just don't drink anymore. I am a chronic self-loather when it comes to my weight. Just because I'm getting in shape or because I was fit or because I'm fit now, that doesn't mean that I still don't have that self-loathing. I've learned to adapt and modify or lean on my strengths or make my weaknesses a little less prominent by learning new tools. But that's not change. It's still there. If you are a chronic abuser, you're still an abuser. If you're an asshole, you're still an asshole. But you can do and alter things and accentuate your personality and focus on different strengths. But the question is, why is anyone so... No, I'm talking. No, I didn't. Are you on the show? No. I will thank everybody, and I'm having a... Hold on a second. Mel,
change
thank
is
you
hard.
so... Mel, I want to do some change right now. Mel, thank you so much for which I completely was going to, but I'm in the middle of a conversation. Leeroy, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to fill in the dead air time. I think it's one of those things that is, you know, it is something that only the person who is trying to redefine themselves can actually make that claim. Because from an exterior perspective, you know, I would look at someone like a Tulsi Gabbard and say she's never going to change. She can't change.
No.
But you always have that ability to say that about other people, right? And then when it always comes to yourself, when you're looking into your own soul, you know, you go, oh, I can change.
Can you? Can you truly change? No. No, because that's not the way it works. The brain is okay. So what you're saying is that you have physically and mentally altered yourself to never do that again. No, I don't think you get what I'm saying, Brian. You don't, because you said that I'm trying to force my beliefs, and that's not true. I know, okay, in the most simplistic terms, call it change. But that's not what takes place in your body. You can't rewrite who you are at a certain level and a certain stage in your life. That's all I'm saying. Scientifically, I will always have my struggles. I will always have my insecurities. I will always have the things that I don't do well or I do, but I can improve. So this is why I asked for us to stop this, because I have ADHD. I can't not talk about it when you keep bringing it up. I've worked on it my whole life, and I've gotten better, but I haven't changed. I'm the same guy. That's why I asked you guys to stop talking about it. I can't. Because that's why I do this show. It's because I want to please you. I want to make you happy. Can't do that if you continue to keep talking about it. Joseph, happy fucking birthday, dude. And Mel, thank you so much for the donation, which I had all intentions to do that right after we were done talking. All right, Snowden. I think we've been very clear how we feel about Snowden, but once again, does that have anything to do with Tulsi Gabbard?
No, but I understand his question because he's trying to put it through the perspective of is she going to be the new DNI? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, if she's on a panel, she's taking on the potential position of the new director of national intelligence. Maybe as a cross-examination, you bring up the biggest intelligence leak that has happened in the last 50 years. I get drawing those lines together. I understand that. But here's the thing. It's not like she did it. And you're supposed to be able to treat that person who is taking on that role with a certain level of respect. She has not only fought for the country, but she's also held a security clearance, you know. So try and I don't know, maybe back off the attitude some. I understand this is politics, but it's at one point in time you guys were on the same team. Right?
He doesn't want an answer though. That's the problem. Yeah. You're asking a question that you have no desire to hear. You don't care what she has to say. The only thing you have to is you want your soundbite for CNN. So you know what I would do is I would get up to these and I'd say there's going to be two types of situations here today. What you think is going to happen and what's actually going to happen. If you want me to answer a question, I'm all here for that. But if you aren't, you're going to demonstrate that in the first 10 seconds when you talk over me. So why don't you tell me what you want me to say so we can just end this? Because this is a joke. It's an absolute joke. Do I think she has the knowledge to run the NSA? Well, she's not running the NSA. But she's running all the intelligence apparatuses and for the United States, that's what DNI does. Do I think she has the knowledge? No. No. But I don't think anyone does until they do. What you're asking me is, does she have the capability to learn at a rapid enough clip to be effective to make the United States intelligence apparatus effective again? And I don't think she does. And the reason I don't think she does is because it's an impossible task to do in 4 years. I don't think she possesses the ability to change things.
That is a very fair assessment.
But I like her, and I think she's as qualified as just about anybody. She's done. Listen, she holds a clearance. She's an officer. She's a flag officer in the military. She holds a clearance. She's been a state legislator. She's got great experience. But I would take Pam Bondi in that role before her. Go ahead, Leeroy.
I will say this. Putting her in that role might be the most brilliant move, and I'll tell you why. Democrats seem to have this philosophy that bigger government with potentially more intrusive and all this regulation on the little guy is somehow a good thing, right? If you get a person who had that mentality, goes into something like the position of the DNI and is going to get chewed up by the mechanisms and just absolutely bogged down by the bureaucracy, and inevitably there will be failures. She might come out of the other end of this thing the Republicans' best friend. Honestly, it could happen.
Listen, intelligence is a very difficult. This is why there's not that many. It's just like SEALs. It's just like Delta. Do you know that intelligence specialists are just as rare as SEALs? If you know an intel person, the chances of running across an IS, just for the Navy, I'm not talking about overall, because there's a shit ton more intelligence guys and girls than SEALs. But I'm talking about the Navy. There's about as many active SEALs as there are, as many active ISs as there are. So it's pretty hard to find an IS. The fact that Leeroy and I ran across each other is pretty fucking rare. I think I've only run across one other IS in my life, and I'm in the circle outside of people who I was in the military with, or people I worked at 3-letter agencies. I'm talking like at the grocery store.
Right.
You're an IS. Holy shit, you're an IS?
Yeah, and it's different when you live in a town where you work, because everyone in that town who works in the same building, you're going to run into that. Yeah. What Matt is talking about is this off chance encounter where, oh my God, I'm at TJ Maxx and bump into, oh, you're an IS, I'm an IS. Holy hell.
Right.
It's time to buy the lottery tickets that day. Yeah.
I don't want anyone to get upset about change. I'm not saying that you haven't done great things. I'm not saying that you haven't turned corners. I'm not saying you haven't done 180s. It's not what I'm saying. Okay. All right. Here's Tulsi Gabbard just obliterating. I don't know why people say this.
Mr. Chairman,
I like losing.
Colonel Gabbard.
I like losing conversations. It's a rarity, and it's enjoyable to be wrong sometimes. But saying, "Oh, he cooked him," or "he obliterated him," or whatever, come on. She does a great job handling Mark Kelly. Here it is.
When Russia was denying us use of chemical weapons, they accused the U.S. of supporting terrorists. This is a line that Putin used frequently during the Syrian civil war as he supported Assad. Syrian officials made similar comments. They did it repeatedly. They did it in public. They did it at the United Nations. In 2016, you gave an interview in which you said, and this is a quote, "The U.S. is providing direct and indirect support to terrorist groups in order to overthrow the Syrian government." And in 2019, on the Democratic presidential debate stage, you said of President Trump, this is a quote, "This current president is continuing to betray us. We were supposed to be going after al-Qaeda, but over years now, not only have we not gone after al-Qaeda, our president is supporting al-Qaeda." So I'm interested to hear, what was your goal in saying these things? And did you consider, before saying them, the motives of Iran and Russia, what their motives might have been before making these claims?
She does cook him. Watch this.
Senator, as someone who enlisted in the military specifically because of al-Qaeda's terrorist attack on 9/11 and committing myself and my life to doing what I could to defeat these terrorists. It was shocking and a betrayal to me and every person who was killed on 9/11, their families, and my brothers and sisters in uniform. When, as a member of Congress, I learned about President Obama's dual programs that he had begun really to overthrow the regime of Syria, and being willing to, through the CIA's Timber Sycamore program that has now been made public, of working with and arming and equipping al-Qaeda in an effort to overthrow that regime, starting yet another regime change war in the Middle East. DoD train and equip program, again, begun under President Obama, is widely been known, looked at, and studied, that ultimately resulted in over $500 million being used to train who they called moderate rebels, but were actually fighters working with and aligned with al-Qaeda's affiliate on the ground in Syria, all to move forward with their regime change and not acknowledging what was obvious at the time and what has unfortunately borne true, which was that a regime change war in Syria, much like the regime change wars in Iraq, the toppling of Gaddafi and Mubarak, while these are all dictators, would likely result in the rise of Islamist extremists like al-Qaeda taking power. I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
I understand.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't be.
Certainly
and
not
I understand,
in our
and
interest.
I appreciate your answer. And
no, you don't understand. Now you do. And he won't change.
Right.
No matter how much Tulsi tries to make him change, he doesn't care because he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. This is the problem.
Clueless.
You can have the last thing. This all plays skill versus will. You can have all the skill in the world, but you may not have the will to go after it. And you may have the will, but you don't have the skill set. It's either a skill or a will problem. And lefties always have one of them. They have the inability to communicate what they feel and what they know. The difference between the two.
They name call. That's
That's
why they
correct.
just say, well, you're a effing asshole. And they go off the deep end real quick because they have no control over that and not realize that the emotions have gotten the better part of them.
Right. Cool, Mike, Mad Mike. I kind of like this comment. The dancing Jews. Invoking dancing people on 9/11 is a touchy subject in that room. It is. But if we're going to go ahead and talk about the dancing Jews, we should probably also talk about the dancing Syrians and the dancing Sauds and the dancing Afghanis. A lot of people celebrate, including people, American citizens in New York who celebrated. Kash Patel. Listen, I got a lot to say about Kash Patel. I'm going to just say it quickly. I still disagree with him vehemently that the President of the United States can declassify anything he wants. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to ask to declassify JFK. My case is closed. Closed. Slam dunk. I win. Nanny nanny boo boo. Stick your head in doo doo. I'm better than you do. Okay? But otherwise, I was really impressed with him today. I really was. He did a great job. He was articulate. He was poised. He did not let Schiff push him around. We're going to watch it. Leeroy, if you got to go, I got to do overtime. I got distracted. I'm sorry, but you got to let me know if you got to go. All right.
No. Yes or no?
Listen to this, dude, because this is beautiful.
I want you to turn around. There are Capitol Police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. Turn around.
No. No.
The fuck is your
I'm
problem?
I'm not your monkey. I'm not your monkey. Why don't you supply the Russian collusion evidence first? Why don't you supply that, and then I'll be your little monkey? Is it because I'm brown that you're trying to do this? You want to throw me a banana? Do you want me to too? Is that what I'm Indian, asshole. If you're going to make a freaking comment, why don't you call me a Punjab or something? But this, maybe I can get you a Slurpee while we're at it. You douche.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them.
Watch this, Leeroy.
I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
That's an abject lie, and you know it. I've never, ever accepted violence against law enforcement. I've worked with these men and women, as you know,
you
my entire
glorified
life,
it in song,
and I did
Mr.
not
Patel.
make a single dime out of
In
it.
song. Well, let me.
How about you ask them if I have their backs, and let's see about that
answer. Let me ask you this, Mr. Patel. Let me ask you this. If an FBI director promoted a song of people who sprayed pepper spray in the face of an FBI agent, would you say they were fit to be director?
Mr. Schiff?
Yes or no? Would they be fit to be director?
I am fit to be the director of the FBI.
If you were the FBI director and you promoted a song with someone who beat an FBI agent with a pole, would you say you were fit to be FBI director?
Mr. Schiff, I am fit to be FBI director based on my 16 years in government service.
And yet you did all these things, Mr. Patel. You can say, oh, I support law enforcement. I decry violence against law enforcement. You can say all that. It's what you did, Mr. Patel, that matters. It's what you did that matters. Well, let me ask you about something else.
What
a slimy mother.
Oh, such a douche. Oh. Yeah.
In a lot of ways, he's not unlike Pelosi. He has a fairly great pit bull quality about him. He's just on the wrong team.
Right.
I want you to turn around there.
If we had that kind of energy from the Republicans, I think it'd be,
Capitol Police officers
so
behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look.
He's just a horrible. Good night, brother. He's a horrible human being. Folks, we're going in the C block. We're going to finish up tonight. This new format, I like it. I got distracted. Everyone's saying it's okay. Nope, it's not okay. ADHD sucks, dude. You guys know it's my flaw. I can't fix it. I care about you, and when you put something, I got to talk to you. You're my team. You're my people, and I never want you to feel unappreciated. That's why I was like, Olivia, what? Of course I'm going to take care of Mel. Of course I'm going to call her out. She came in and started chastising me versus saying, hey, don't forget Mel. She's like, did you say hello to Mel? I think you know I didn't. That's why you're in here busting my chops. Olivia can be wrong sometimes, folks. I understand she's a beautiful prom princess, but trust me, there is a side. It's there. Donald Trump. Next up, Guantanamo Bay. This should be good.
The Dumb Store is veteran-owned with a 5-star diamond rating for service and satisfaction. We offer quality products like coffee, shirts, hoodies, and hats, all made by veterans. Shop with confidence, backed by hundreds of 5-star reviews. Use code DUMB10 to save 10%. Visit thedumbshow.com today. Thank you for your support.
If I was Kash Patel, you know what I would have said? Hey, you know what? Maybe not, but I know this for sure. If I was censured by Congress and my peers, I probably would not qualify as FBI director. Who here has that happened to? Oh, Donald Trump is, this is an interesting, he's building a migrant detention camp. Of course, what do you think the liberals are calling it there, big guy? Migrant detention camp. What do you think they're calling it?
Yeah, prison?
No, worse. Nazis. Think of Nazis. Go ahead.
Okay, so they're calling it concentration camps.
Yeah, just with cattle cars. We're going to cattle car them across the water to Gitmo. So we're going to create a subterranean tunnel for our trains and cattle cars. Let's talk about this. First, folks, we are overdrive and overtime. We are done with the blocks. This is a way for us to go ahead and notify you that when we're in overtime, it means that we are over our limit of what we usually do, which is 2 hours, and we need your help. If you don't mind donating to the show, we'll continue to keep going. $294.06 is where we're at. Would love to break that $350 mark. Let's see if we can do it. Trump says he's signing an order to build a migrant detention camp in Guantanamo. I want to get your opinions. Here it is.
Signing an executive order to instruct the department.
Right. Debbie says Olivia cannot change who she is. Thank you. Thank you for putting the icing on that cake.
Of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them. because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo. This will double our capacity immediately, right? And tough. That's a tough place to get out of. Today's signings bring us one step closer to eradicating the scourge of migrant crime in our communities once and for all. And it was just signing an executive.
So Leeroy, now that we've started overtime, what do you think?
Well, I know the Cubans love him. The Haitians love him. I think that he'll probably buy them all a wristwatch, a Trump watch, where they can wear them on their wrists. No, I mean, I think it's a good thing. I think that we need to have the threat of something like that in our back pocket, something that is OCONUS, where if you get caught doing a violent act and you are not an American citizen, you are somebody that jumped over a wall or through a tunnel or whatever the case is, that threat that you're going to end up in a place like Gitmo in a Connex box should be, right. I mean, you shouldn't be here to begin with, but the threat of that, like the scene out of Sicario 2, where, the next thing you know, you're not exactly covered anymore. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing. I'm not going to judge that.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
Subscribing. Thank you.
But I think the mere threat of that might curb some of the immigration problem. Just the threat of it by itself.
I'm all for it. If you are not a citizen of this country and you don't come in here legally and your native country won't take you back, I think there is nothing better than taking you a place that you have no desire to go, and these are a consequence for your actions. You are not an American citizen. You do not have habeas corpus. The only thing that you crossing our border illegally does is allow us to prosecute you based on our laws. It doesn't make you a U.S. citizen. So we get to do whatever the fuck we want to you. You're lucky that he's not actually considering you to be a domestic terrorist the moment you cross in here, because then they can bound you, they can gag you and stick you in a hole for the rest of your life. All he's doing is taking you to Gitmo for processing and hold you there until he's basically taking you to an international prison. It's not a concentration camp. It's not a re-education camp. It's not an internment camp. They're not re-educating you. They're not playing frickin', serving them apple pie and Babe Ruth videos with singing Bye Bye Miss American Pie. They are literally putting them in a holding cell until their native country opens their fricking doors. Deal with it. Stop fucking crossing our border. Stop breaking into our country. Stop breaking the law. So Gitmo, yes, please.
Yeah, but it will be the left who has the strongest reaction. They will absolutely be the first ones to say human atrocities and, Auschwitz or, whatever the case is. That will come. There will be memes made about this. And I'm okay with it.
And so am I. I embrace it fully. Because liberals, you guys are the problem. You're the ones that took these people across the border, dumped them into sanctuary cities, defied the federal government, defied ICE, made it as impossible, wanted to defund the police. Crime is up in 37 of the top 50 cities, and all of those are liberal ran. You guys were also fudging numbers about crime. You were fudging numbers about fentanyl. You were fudging numbers about the border. You said the border was secure, is the best border we've ever seen. These are all lies. You guys are always.
I don't know if you saw that.
What?
I said Nick Freitas posted about that today, and it was.
I didn't.
I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see it. Nick won't come on the show. We got to get him on here. But the point is liberals are always on the wrong side of what's right. And you know what? I'm not saying conservatives are perfect. That is the least honest statement that I could make. But what I'm saying is that I don't believe that we purposely screw with progress and what's best for our country just for the sake of doing it. Liberals have bad ideas. I'm sorry, this is why 100 million people are dead, because progressivism doesn't work. Democracy alone does not work. Socialism does not work. Communism does not work. That is the end of that segment. We're moving on. We're going into an interesting thing that I saw today in regards to Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg. Did you have a chance to see this?
No, I missed this.
So Meta decides to go ahead and pay Donald Trump $25 million ahead of his lawsuit just to get it done after they suspended him for January 6th. So this is what it comes down. Here's the article. Meta settles Trump lawsuit for $25 million over suspended accounts after January 6th. Meta has agreed to pay him $25 to settle a lawsuit filed by President Trump against the social media company after it suspended his Facebook and Instagram accounts following J6. The settlement marks a major victory for Trump, who previously criticized social media companies for censoring him 4 years ago. As part of the agreement, Meta won't admit to any wrongdoing, but will pay $25 million. Of that money, $22 million will be allocated toward a fund for Trump's presidential library, while the rest will cover legal fees and pay for other plaintiffs in the case. The lawsuit stemmed from Meta's action to ban Trump. Meta initially suspended Trump's accounts for 2 weeks and was ultimately prolonged to 2 years. Trump sued Twitter, now known as X, and YouTube in 2021 after they similarly banned him for posting. Unlike the one involving Meta, those lawsuits went nowhere. Twitter restored access to Trump's account. This is a noticeable difference from last year when Trump threatened to jail Zuckerberg for life if he tried rigging the 2024 election. Meanwhile, Zuckerberg is reportedly exploring a purchase of a property in D.C. to take advantage of his newfound friendliness with Trump. So the question is this. Is it that you have to be rich in order for them to take care of you? Because the last time I counted, they owe me about $265,000. And that goes up to $15,000 every month that they've done this. Now, the Dumb Nation has done a great job helping us, and we love them for it. But does this open up Mark Zuckerberg, even though he didn't admit fault, to a class action lawsuit to all conservatives who have been throttled and shadow banned, which we know has happened? He openly admitted he was doing it. Do we have legal recourse to go after him?
I think we should, for one. And two, I would also ask everyone to take a slightly different perspective and just imagine for a hot second that Trump didn't win. Would Zuckerberg have fronted this money had Trump lost? Would Facebook still be on their absolute suppression of free speech had Trump lost? It's worth asking.
I think we know the answer. It comes down to there needs to be an account to these people, and letting them off the hook, they're just going to do it again. I still don't have access to Reels. I still don't have access to stars. My Instagram account, I can't get a blue check mark now. I can't put a blue check mark. I've got 210,000 followers, and I can't get a blue check mark. Why? What? Who else is me?
There's no set of standards that seem to be equally applied here. Just seems like they demonize certain people, you know? Oh,
yeah. Well, it's just typical. It's just typical. Anyway, listen, I'd love to get people's feedback on the different blocks and doing these time crunches. Now, we kind of blew through the last two, but I knew that those were going to be short. We're really only, 30 minutes over. So the overtime is the clock is off because I had to reset it. But either way, I want to get your feelings. How do you feel about it? What do you think? Do you think it's good to have that there to kind of keep us on track? I blew it. It's my fault. Go ahead, Leeroy. What are your thoughts?
I think it is a good thing because what it helps do is it keeps everything on a more of a schedule. And you know that if you're going to have a longer story like the airliner, right, that you can double the time on that one, right? Mm-hmm. But what it establishes that timeline so that not only does it ensure that you get through all of the stories that you have allotted for the night, but it also helps to break everything up because there's going to be times where you're going to go from the helicopter crash and 67 people that died, very somber, very bad, right? Now you have to have some sort of dividing line because when you go into the next story and you're talking about, Adam Schiff's googly eyes, we should be in a little bit more of a
Right.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Folks, if you have not, this is not your first time watching the Don't Unfriend Me show. I was looking at Netflix last night. I think Netflix is now $22 a month. And I was just thinking, Olivia and I maybe watch 2 or 3 hours of Netflix a month, and we're giving them that much money. That's insane. That's insane. So if you watch the Don't Unfriend Me show, 2.5 hours, 2 hours every single night, that's what, anywhere from 10, 12, 13, 14 hours a week. So you're looking at watching us for that time, and most of you have. If you are spending that much time with us, 40 hours a month, in my opinion, if you watch us more, Don't Unfriend Me show could use it more than Netflix. If you have an opportunity and you want to donate to the show, see it continue, this is the best way. thedumbshow.com/donate. You can use PayPal. You can use Venmo. Doesn't matter if it's $5. Doesn't matter if it's $1. Doesn't matter if you can't even do it. Just like, follow, and share. Come back tomorrow. It's Red Friday. Myself, Amy, and Olivia will be here. We can't wait to see you. I'm going to let Leeroy have his 1 minute. I'm going to answer a quick question on a super fast answer. Matt, you must know a lawyer to bounce the class action lawsuit with fate. I do. But do I really want to go down that road? I don't know. I don't know. Next question was, Matt, just curious, if we have an illegal immigrant who has an anchor baby, we apprehend the parents and deport them. Tom Homan says deport the family. I agree, but what if the country they are being deported to does not accept the child because they are not a citizen of that country? Impose tariffs and sanctions against them. Force them to. We're the United States. Bobby, that's like $225 tonight. Thank you, Bobby. That's huge. She says, shh. Okay. I don't know who she's shushing. Probably Olivia.
Maybe it's more like.
Here's the thing. Yeah. You have to go and say, listen, Mexico, do you really want that headline? Latin America, do you want that headline that you're going to go ahead and force a child to stay here? It's ridiculous. It comes down to this. Something has to give. And if you cannot get these people to amicably solve this problem with the United States, then you really don't want to have that $326 billion trade relationship. Or you don't want your military equipment. So here's what I would say. Fine. Handle the cartels yourself the next time they cross into your town. DEA will no longer go ahead and work in Colombia. Take away the things that we provide. And when you can't use a stick, just take away their lollipops, man. That's how you do it. Leeroy, you got 1 minute. Give it to us, buddy.
Great show tonight, and we covered a lot. Most of it was with regard to the unfortunate crash of the Black Hawk and the airliner, which is sad. But we also covered a lot of other stuff, and we talked about Adam Schiff and Tulsi Gabbard, and talked about what it means to change. So, it was a really great show, and I always enjoy these, and I enjoy the dummies. You guys are awesome. I like having. This show is as much a catharsis for me as it is anybody else, because I like to be able to bounce my thoughts off of someone who's sane and know that I'm at least tracking in the right direction. I really, really do try to put a lot of thought into things. It's probably one of my faults is I am a classic overthinker. And so I'll try to take in everyone else's perspectives and opinions and everything else. But at the end of the day, I will examine a problem and break it down. That's what we do.
The good news is you'll never change. You'll never change. That's why we love you. I want to thank Bobby Richardson. We both are. I overthink things too, and that's why I get offended sometimes, because I care about people. I don't let people in. I actually genuinely love these people. Matt, I think you should research it. You aren't the only victim. I am. It's not like Damani and I haven't talked about it. It's not like Ryan Weaver and I haven't talked about it. We've all talked about it. We just need to do it and sue his ass. And you know what? For him to give me $250,000, that changes our lives. It gives Leeroy a $75,000 check. It gives Amy a $75,000 check to say I love him even more than I already do. And then, put $100,000 in the bank and then have a little bit more to do some stuff with. So, well, that's over $250,000. Doesn't matter. I want to thank Bobby also, not only for giving $225 tonight, but also buying the Constitution. 144 pages. We sell it. We are the only place in town you can get this because this is from Applewood Books, who does all the Smithsonian, Library of Congress. When you're on the street mall, this is how you get your Constitution, the one that Leeroy has right in front of him, which we also sell.
Yes.
Full leather,
Yes.
144 pages.
Yes,
it has the beautiful like blue velvet inlay. It's got a picture of the Constitution, the biographies, all the amendments, and we use this constantly. You can follow along on the show when you do it. It's over there. Also, the new coffee brand that is over there, which we're very excited about, which is 4547, which is our brand new coffee. It is a medium dark roast. It is delicious, veteran made from Wisconsin. It has Donald Trump on the cover. No, he does not endorse it, but that's okay. 4447 is the brand. You can go buy it over at the Dumb Show. You can get it on subscription for $15.49, I believe, or $16.99 regularly. Trust me when I say this bag of coffee will last you. It is, listen, our store has 5 stars. You don't find that anywhere. We've got over 3,000 purchases on that store, and we have got over 200 5-star ratings on our product. People love our stuff. We'll see you tomorrow. Livia, myself, and Amy. What's up, bud? What's up, buddy? That it? We done?
Nothing. Yeah, that's it.
All right. See you guys tomorrow.
That's
hey,
it.
I want to thank my boy. 3 days in a row, people have said, "Oh man, I really like Leeroy.
Aww.
He's amazing. He's amazing." And we have figured out a shorthand working together. I love this. So anytime you want to come on, you know the drill, dude. Anytime you're more than welcome. All right, buddy.
I do. But and everyone should know that, like when I work during the day, I'm doing the thing. Right. I'm doing the real thing. And then I also have the thing on the weekends too. So when you put all of this stuff together and, you try to also be a good dad and,
it's a lot.
A good husband.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And you have to prioritize. So I give what I can.
Quickly,
love you guys.
Wait, you got to get this from Cool Mike. He says, only like the 4th show I've seen, but you guys are great. We can disagree. And that's the whole premise of the show. We can agree, disagree. Just, you can love me, hate me, just don't unfriend me. We can disagree about something. I don't think we disagree. I think we took each side. Here's the government's perspective. Here our intelligence perspectives. Here's our emotional side as citizens. But here is also looking at it from a legal perspective and his motivations for greed. It's pretty extensive. Okay, so
there was stuff behind that anybody who's in the know would go, "Oh my God, that's terrible." So yeah,
there's some other shit. All right, we're out of here. God bless. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you. See you guys next time. Tomorrow night, 7:00. See you then. Bye.
Peace out, homies.
See y'all.
This is the Don't Unfriend Me Show with your hosts, Matt, Leeroy, Amy, and Olivia. Geopolitics, military analysis, and election coverage. Coming to you live on all major social media channels at The Dumb Show. Honest, direct, unfiltered. We can agree, we can disagree. Just don't unfriend me.